What's going on, guys? I'm back with another one, and I just watched a movie called Pearl, starring Mia Goth, Tandy Wright, and Matthew Sutherland. I was about to say Kiefer, but I don't want to disrespect that man like that. All right. First of all, I want to talk about two-part movies. All right, movies that have the part one and the part two in the same year or a year apart. First time I remember that happening was in 1984. Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, you know this is my classic right here. I love this movie, one of the greats, right? But then in 1985, Freddy's Revenge followed behind it. A lot of people say that Freddy's Revenge cannot hold a torch to the first one. I kind of feel like they're on the same, almost the same level. But then, yes, in the long run, part one wins, because it's hard to beat a classic. All right, it's hard to beat the original. But in 1989, Toxic Avenger Part 2 came out. And within that same movie, Part 3 was behind it. Okay? And then later on, they separated the two. But in my opinion, 1, 2, 3, Part 56, they're all the same to me. Entertaining and corny as hell. I love it all. I love it all. And within the same year, Back to the Future 2 came out. Now, what I love about Back to the Future 2, when I saw the trailer, when I was younger, they would be riding on those little hoverboards, and it was just like so futuristic at the time. Like, oh my God, this is cool because it could never happen, right? So that got me. That got me, okay? That pulled me in. I don't care. I'm old, okay? Then in 1990, Part 3 came behind that. Obviously, in this little quarrel, Part 2 is going to get the trophy because Part 3, this was so bad to me, in my opinion. It was trash. It was garbage. Okay? In that same year, the miniseries came out. Not the movie, for you youngsters. Not the movie. The miniseries came out. And it had the end of part 1 and the beginning of part 2 taken off to make it just one movie later on. Okay? And so in that instance, I can't really say which one was the better and which one was the worst on that. But then in 1990, nope, I'm sorry, skipping some years, a lot of years. In 2003, Kill Bill Volume 1 came out. Now, in this instance, we have a lot of action, a lot of entertainment, the quotables, all right, the Quentin Tarantino feel to it. Way better than Kill Bill Volume 2 that came out just the next year. Way better than that. And so in this instant, you have to put these movies together to make one movie, in my opinion. Then skipping some years later on, 2018, Avengers Infinity War came out, okay? Once again, more action, more entertaining, better plot, okay? Interesting far by far. But then in 2019, they got the end game. And that's just what it was, the end game. And into all means. All right, because we haven't got a really good Marvel movie since. But it's obvious that the first one was the better of the two. And I just consider it one movie altogether. Now, I did leave a movie out of here, which was Nymphomaniac. 1, because I haven't seen it. 2, they said that it was so long they had to make this 2 movies or 2 parts, right? Now, for some reason, I feel like I need to see Nymphomaniac. I don't know what it is, but I need to see it. I don't know. And now we have Pearl. And my question is, will Pearl be better than its first part, X? We're about to find out. Let's go. Pearl, for those who don't know, for those who are not aware, let's keep it honest. Let's keep it real here. If you don't know about Pearl by now, you're insane. You're insane. You're insane. You're in a barn talking to animals like they can respond back, stabbing ducks with pitchforks. Or maybe you're in a cornfield violating a scarecrow. Either way, don't play me. Do not play me. Pearl. Needless to say, it's the prequel to X. Okay? You're coming off of X, where Pearl is an old woman with her husband, and they terrorize these young kids who come to the next house to borrow it for a little, sex movie action. And this one, it's explaining why Pearl is the way that she is. Okay, the way she grew up, to her search for fame. She wanted to be a dancer. She had a dream, but in the midst of it all, her mother noticed something that was not right about Pearl, and her mother was such a strict lady that she just didn't help. Okay, and then she had a father who was a vegetable, pretty much, who couldn't do anything. So this is a lot of influence on Pearl, and in her little quest to become a star, her mind starts to slowly unravel more and more and more. And that's the premise to the movie. Positives. I have to give all props, first and foremost, to Mia Goth. Yes, in this film, she did her thing. Not to say she didn't do her thing in X, but I'm just saying that because I can't remember any other movies that Mia Goth was in. She is a renowned actress, okay? But at the same time, this is her most memorable work of the day. Honestly, the facial expressions, the faces she made alone, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It was creepy. It reminds me of the woman who played Carrie. Her name's will be at the bottom of the screen. I'm sorry about that disrespect there, but she had a natural look to her that screams horror. And it's not to say that she's an unattractive woman. She's not. But she is something in her eyes is just off. Okay? And her performance said it all. She did such a great performance in this movie. She has the look. She has the look like Faruqa Balk, or whatever her name is, from Craft, okay? She has that same kind of look. Not the same look, but you know what I'm talking about. It's there. It's there. She has this thing to her. And it goes so well with this movie that I hope that she is used a lot more times than this in a lot more films. Okay, I have to give it that props right there. Great performance. Underrated, if anything else. Underrated. I hope it goes, appreciated in the future. But right now, highly underrated. Another positive. The kills in this movie were so chilling to the bone, actually. Okay, the way there are not a great amount of kills in this movie, so it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality of the kill. Right, when you feel a chill down your spine, you feel like you don't even want to. I was with my brother, and he couldn't even watch the screen most of the time. He was trying to look away, but I know he couldn't do it. It's just the way that she approached her victims was just like there's a scene where she talks to one of her female friends, and then something is revealed. And the female friend walks out of the house, okay, and nothing's happening at first because it's a little patient walk to her car, wherever she was going, and then all of a sudden, because you can feel it that she's gonna come out of that door behind her, and she does it like she's about to get her belt to give her child a whooping, Okay, she grabs that axe like it's a belt that Big Mama's gonna whip some kids with. Okay, the way she does it, it's that scene. It's something about that scene that gets me, man. And there's her usage of the pitchfork. She loves that pitchfork. It's also an X, so keep that in mind. Keep that pitchfork in mind. But that axe scene was something else. That axe scene, it needs its own category. All right, it needs its own category. That axe scene was just crazy. Okay. Another positive about this, her level of crazy. Okay. Once again, much props to Mia Goth for doing her thing, because there wasn't just the fact that she was a little off. There were some instances where if she didn't get what she wanted, she immediately snapped into this other person. And of course, her face would squinch up and she would cry on command, or just start getting a shaky voice and start to scream uncontrollably, get loud. And she did it with one of her victims. And at that point, I don't see how they were still standing around. Okay, because that would have freaked me out. And the crying she would do, she would cry to herself because, of course, not getting her way. Once again, she would cry to herself, and that crying would go on for a pretty long time. No normal person cries that much. Not the way she did. Just her crying alone was creepy and scary, and it was questionable. All right, questionable about her mental state. So it was the little things with this woman. It was the little things, man. Then there's the parents. For my last pilot, the parents is almost the best thing about this movie, because on one end you have her mother, which was such a mean, spiteful woman, hard up because of the situation they were in, that she treated Mia like garbage, like she was a dog. All right, Mia couldn't spend this much amount of money. She couldn't get this. She couldn't do that. She had to be home by a certain time. And I'm sorry, I keep calling her Mia, Pearl. Pearl is a grown woman. She's a grown ass woman. Okay, I know she's crazy, but you made that crazy. Part of your genes made that crazy. Okay. Then on the other end, there's the dad who couldn't even be a dad, really. And that's not his fault. He came down sick with something that left him as a vegetable. Couldn't even move. He was in a wheelchair. He was wheelchair bound the entire movie. I felt so bad for the father. I felt so bad. He had to sit there and witness so much. And his life was at danger so many times. And he couldn't do anything. He couldn't even scream. He couldn't scream for help. He just sat there with that same stare. And that was psychologically breaking within itself. Negatives. Some of the victims in this movie were downright just clueless. Okay, to be exact, two of them. I want to say stupid, but I'm trying not to be too harsh, but I'm sorry. They were stupid. There's the guy that tried to reel her in to the movies that he was making. He saw the sign. He saw the sign at his house. She said something about causing harm to her parents, and he was like, huh? And from that moment, he should have known something was wrong. But he kept going. He kept pursuing a relationship, if you want to call it that, with her. Then there was another lady, I will not mention what relation she has to her, but it's another lady, friend of hers, was called that after having a long discussion with her, which we'll get into later on, she still does not realize that something is wrong. Maybe until it's too late. No, but she should have caught this at the audition that Pearl was having. She was there too. Pearl said something about, I must win this. She said, you mean you are having for me, right? If I win, it's okay. If you win, it's okay, right? She said, no, I must win this. And she had this look on her face that was so disturbing. You weren't warned by this. This did not warn you. This didn't warn you. This didn't startle you in any bit. I'm concerned about their mental abilities as well. Okay, they're not that smart. They're not smart. All right, let's get straight to it. Another negative. That table scene she had, the speech she had at the table, and they show it in the trailer a lot. It went on incredibly way too long. It was so long. Okay, I don't see how the actress got through that herself. I don't see how she probably she probably messed up like 16 times, more than 16 times, trying to get that whole speech down and crying the entire time she did it. And I was at a point where I was like, okay, by this time we need to just wrap it up. We need to wrap this up because you're talking way too long. I want to see the expression on the other person you're talking to. Are they even there still? I wouldn't have even been there anymore. I'd have been gone. The chair would have been spinning, all that. But she kept talking. The scene went on and on. All right. Horrible. Horrible. Last complaint about this. The ending was a little undone. All right. The ending had a loose end to it. I can't really say what or give detail to it, but it was done in a hurry, in a way that if you had just let the ending go on a little longer and then end it, that would have satisfied me, because there was some undone things in that end that needs to be explained to certain people. I'm not going to say too much, all right? And for this, I'm giving this a hell yes. It gets a hell yes, okay? This movie is probably one of the greatest movies I've seen this year. Better than X. Better than X. Remember that. Press that like button, share. You better subscribe.